Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, and Steve Justice have all left To the Stars Academy. This is certainly a huge blow for the prospects of this company, and I'm sure investors aren't thrilled with this development. But I wouldn't count Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Academy out. After all, DeLonge is a savvy businessman and still has important people on his roster, such as physicist Hal Puthoff and ex-CIA officer Jim Semivan, among others. And who knows who may be added to their roster in the future. And they still have a deal with the U.S. Army through the Cooperative Research and Development Agreement regarding the examination of potential metamaterials and associated technology innovations. And they have other stuff going for them as well. And they are still apparently working on a really cool app called The Vault that aims to function as the world's most comprehensive intelligence tool for collecting, analyzing, reporting, and establishing data authenticity for UAPs and other subject matters. Before we go any further, I want to congratulate To the Stars Academy for having accomplished so much in so little time. Here, Luis Elizondo recaps what TTSA has accomplished from a coast-to-coast AM interview from December 20th, 2020. In the last 3 years, you had 3 videos released that were on U.S. government systems. You had 3 videos confirmed to be authentic by the U.S. government. You have 3 videos that detect truly anomalous characteristics, as, by the way, admitted by the U.S. government. You had the U.S. government admitting that ATIP was real. You had the U.S. government admitting at various stages that ATIP studied UAPs. You had senior members of Congress acknowledging ATIP was real. You had classified briefings being provided to key congressional members and their staff. You had the establishment of a UAP task force. You had military eyewitnesses coming out now in public having the conversation. And you have other countries like Japan now wanting to share their UAP information with the United States. You had major media outlets now reporting on and taking seriously the UAP topic. And last but not least, let's not forget what happened this week. You had the former head of the CIA, the director himself, come out and say, yeah, these things are real. And oh, by the way, America, you might want to prepare yourself that these things, they may not be from here. To say that TTSA has been a failure would be revisionist history. Clearly, they have not been a failure in pushing the ball down the field in terms of changing how, at the very minimum, the United States views the phenomenon. In that sense, we are in a new world, for sure, and there's no question about that. Let's dig into some UFO Twitter action and see what people like Lou Elizondo and other members of UFO Twitter had to say regarding Elizondo and a couple of his colleagues leaving To the Stars Academy. Tyler Henry states, I was very excited about their mission until they started promoting helmet sales and Tom's posting of obviously dubious videos. I understand the power of media entertainment in bringing awareness to the public, but I wish TTSA had been more facts first and self-aware. Project Unity responds. I agree, although I don't think any of us should have been expecting TTSA to hit a perfect 10 out of 10 on their mission statement. This type of entity has never existed before. The conversation is expected to go international now through the actions of individuals like Lou and Chris. This was Elizondo's first tweet after it became public that him and a few of his colleagues were leaving To the Stars Academy, or had left. Here he goes. New dawn, new beginnings, same friends. 2021 is shaping up to be a banner year in the midst of shifting into second gear with plenty of room for all to jump on board. Thanks to amazing UFO Twitter and others for your continued support. Buckle Down responds to Elizondo's initial tweet. Well, we don't know what this means, sir. Will you continue to help the public directly, or does all this go back into the government and now we citizens are left out again? Elizondo responds, we're doing this to increase public transparency, not go backwards. Any hints, Lou, or more insight on what second gear may entail? Elizondo responds, hey, Joe, sometimes to accomplish the mission, we must reposition ourselves on the battlefield. That is precisely what is occurring. The battle space is not static. Thanks for asking. The second gear citation is actually from the December 20th, 2020 interview that Elizondo did with George Knapp. Here's a direct quote from that show that may give us more insight into what Elizondo means by second gear. George Knapp asks, what about the TV show? Where do things stand? Elizondo responds, Chris Mellon and I, we've accomplished our mission With History Channel, we now have it to a point where the conversation can be had by mainstream media and our leaders in government, and people don't have to be ashamed to have the conversation. Military people are coming out, private citizens are coming out of the woodwork to have the conversation. The task force has been established, so I think the time has come for us to shift into second gear. Now, what that second gear looks like, I certainly don't want to put the cart before the horse in this case, but there are several things we're looking at that will take this conversation truly to the global stage. History Channel was very good bringing the conversation to the American audience, but let's face it, there's a whole lot of people that live on this planet, and only 500 million or so live in the U.S., and they're facing the same challenges we're facing regarding this topic, this phenomena. So perhaps it's time that we take this conversation truly global to the international stage. To give further insight into what second gear may entail, here's an excerpt from an interview done on December 22nd, 2020 with Robert Fleischer and Lou Elizondo.
But I think it would be a fair presumption to say international engagement is becoming one of our top priorities. I won't go into detail of exactly how we're going to do that and our plan for that, but I think people can start to see that shifting now that we've got the conversation going here in our country. I think it's time we have this conversation occurring now more globally. I think it wouldn't be a surprise if people saw Chris Mellon and myself, and maybe some other people, I won't say their names right now, working on some joint projects in the public domain, maybe a very hard-hitting documentary on a global level, where we continue the work and effort that we did with Unidentified, and really take this conversation global, provide new information, new evidence, new testimony that will resonate not just in our country here, but perhaps in other countries as well.
Recall how Elizondo said that people should not be surprised if they find him, Chris Mellon, and other people who he wouldn't name working on joint projects, including a hard-hitting documentary on a global level. It's very important that you keep that in mind as I play this next clip that comes from a new podcast called Project Human. And this clip is with the host, Zach Sitchy, and the guest, James Fox, who was the director of the Phenomenon documentary.
We have identified a number of potential pieces of evidence, and I am currently putting together a team, both government insiders, and it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's true.
We have identified a number of potential pieces of evidence, and we're putting together a team of government insiders. I don't have the rest of the clip, but I think he was going to say, and other people as well. My suspicion is that team is going to consist of James Fox, but also Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon. And my suspicion is that this documentary is going to largely cover what has taken place in the last 3 years, because James Fox has stated that if he's ever to do another documentary, it's going to be something that covers the disclosure process, what's taking place now, as opposed to the historical record when it comes to UFOs. So in that light, I think that if Elizondo and Mellon join the team with Fox and some other people that we don't have their names, and they do this enormous documentary, it's going to be about the disclosure process. It's going to be about UFO events that have occurred in recent history, like the USS Nimitz, the USS Roosevelt from 2015, and so forth. And he said he came across potential pieces of evidence. So all in all, this sounds very juicy, and I look forward to seeing where this is all headed. Now, I'm not saying it's guaranteed that Elizondo and Mellon are joining forces with James Fox. I'm suspicious of it based upon what I just presented to you, but I could be completely wrong. Regardless, I look forward to second gear. I look forward to the world uniting to figure out what the heck is going on, because I think there is something going on. And I don't think it can be relegated to misidentifications only. I think there's something much more mysterious going on. And I believe, and I've said it before, and I'll obnoxiously say it again, I believe the US government has the forensic evidence many times over to prove this presence. Yet, I don't believe the US government knows where this presence comes from, except that it's almost certainly not a human source, and it's well advanced of anything any military inventory in the world has at their disposal. As second gear commences and new things are on the horizon, and indeed the disclosure process continues, and anyone who thinks that this is all like just human psychology going awry, right? You got senators talking about UAP, you got a UAP task force that got initiated very recently. You have Top Gun pilots such as Dave Fravor talking about their encounters, and it seems like on every level this is escalating. Legislatively, interpersonally, governmentally, this is escalating. I don't think this is going to stop, because I think the truth must emerge. I'm going to have a little refreshment, if you don't mind, in celebration of where we're all headed. Exciting times, and I will see you in the next episode.